Okay, so it is 11 o'clock. We're going to get started. Thanks for attending the webinar. I hope this is going to be useful for you guys, those of you that have small businesses in these kind of times. I hope you're all staying safe and locked down in your homes or wherever is safe for you guys. So I put this slide set together because many of my current clients were concerned about what's been happening. And it occurred to me that there were a number of things that you could be doing to kind of analyze your current situation and ask the right questions about your business and then be able to make effective changes, pivot a little bit, what we call in the business terms of pivoting. So I put this together, safeguarding your business in disruptive times, and hopefully this will help you a little bit. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit here. Yeah, I'm Andy Kamel. I'm the founder of Infix, Small Business Coaches. I've been doing this since about 2010. Prior to that, I had a 30-year corporate career, and the last 2 decades before business coaching was spent helping Qualcomm make a lot of money. If you've heard of Qualcomm, develops all the chipsets and CDMA that everything runs on these days on your cell phones. Actually worked with many large divisions at Qualcomm, helped to build bleeding edge technology, had a lot of fun doing that, management operations, did a bit of global acquisitions as well with the company, helped to buy a few technology companies and actually ran a couple of those companies as well for Qualcomm. Pre-Qualcomm, I was in defense industry, doing a lot of engineering and leadership and management. So, but the last 10 years, it's been coaching small businesses because that's where I find that I can really give back to the business community and help lots of small businesses instead of one big business, right, as you do in the corporate world. So let's start. So one of the things, one of the obvious things is not to panic in these times, right? When things like this happen, the best thing to do is, as Rudyard Kipling said in his great poem, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, right? I mean, it's a tough thing to do, but there are some key things here that we're pointing to, right? To basically stay the course, stay on track, don't do drastic things that are going to make your life hard, right? In the long run, right? You got to continue to think long term, even though there are maybe things that you need to change in the short term. So stay on track and plan for what's next. Don't make those knee-jerk reactions. The best thing to do in these times is to consult your business advisors and your mentors. Talk to people that have been doing the stuff that you do longer and find out what they've done in other times, right? Back in 2008, we had a big downturn. I have some clients that are realtors that that lived through that time when the mortgage markets were wiped out and the house buying just stopped. And so there's a lot of people that have been through these situations before. So getting advice and getting mentorship is really important in these times. So the other thing is keep moving, right? A lot of times fear causes people to stop. And I'm always telling my wife that, in fearful times, I keep moving. There's an opportunity. There's always an opportunity, right? Whenever there's something happening, there's always an opportunity to change something, to do something different. And these times are kind of sent to test us and to test our mettle and to help us get out of these problems, right? So being stuck in indecision or being frozen or fearful of the future or even the short-term future will not help us. We have to overcome that fear. So the best way to do that is to analyze your current situation. Look at your situation from not from an emotional perspective, but more of an objective perspective, and ask the right questions. So that kind of leads me into the next slide. So what are the kind of questions that would be good to be asked? So Having a bit of a problem here with my slides. What things can be done better right now? So look at your business and ask the question, what am I doing right now that could be done better? You know, have I always been doing the things? If you're stuck at home right now and you had to shut your shop up, the best thing to do is to use the time to figure out what things you've been doing and how they could be done better. Because, you know, if you're not operating your store right now, then how do you do that? I see a lot of coffee shops have closed down, but not necessarily completely closed down, right? They left their shutters open and they were serving people at the doors. There are a number of coffee shops that continue to do that, right? So they're trying to make the best of a worse situation, but they're asking those questions. How can we make things better right now? How can we keep moving, even if it's at a slower pace? Second question could be, how can I prepare for when things go to turn around? So things are going to come back. You know, we're not going to, I mean, the economy is hurting right now from this, and it may be hurting for a little while longer because of this. But again, these things create opportunity. So how can I prepare for when things start turning around? How can I prepare for when the government says, okay, everybody start to get back to work? Because it's coming. It's going to come. It may not be coming soon, but when it does come, it's going to be something that we need to start to look at. So you can prepare for what things you're going to do when that starts up. Are you going to be one of the groundbreakers? Are you going to be the first business to open up? Are you going to open up when the federal government says yes, but maybe the city or your state hasn't quite said yes yet? Are you going to, you know, be someone who's going to get out there quicker? And what are those opportunities? What opportunities can you think of that could potentially help your business when you now or in the future, right? What could you get from this, right? I know a lot of people, we're online business coaches. We've been online for 2 years, but there's a lot of businesses now. I know a number of coaches that have never done it before, but have now switched to online coaching, which is great because online coaching is the future, and we can reach more people, and we can do it safer from our own armchair, right? So that's a way that people are pivoting, people are changing. So cash flow. Cash flow is super important, right? Let's talk about things that need to be done right now. Looking at your cash flow right now, at any time really for a business is good, but in disruptive times, it's the most important thing, right? Cash flow is going to be your ability to make payroll, your ability to pay yourself, to pay your mortgage. Cash flow is something that's very important. Now, this doesn't mean, though, that slashing expenses is necessarily the best thing to do. Now, trimming expenses might be a good thing, but going on a complete slashing spree may cause more problems than it's worth. For instance, let me give you an example. A lot of times when the proverbial shit hits the fan, right? A lot of times people will panic in their business and cut things like marketing budget. Now, that initially might sound like a good idea. However, that might not be a good thing to be done right at the beginning, right? What you really want to do is know your data really well. Look at where your business is coming from. What are you doing? And does it make sense for me to cut budget right now in that area? Try to make more informed decisions as opposed to knee-jerk decisions, as we said in the previous slide. Marketing sometimes can seem very nebulous, and it seems like, oh, I'm spending all this money on this, that, and the other, but I don't really understand what the ROI is on that. Well, the answer to that is, well, you should know the ROI, and you should be collecting the data to show the ROI. And that's something that lots of business owners don't do because they find that hard. Not everybody's a data analyst. Not everybody knows how to collect that data or how to get that data or what data to collect. And even when they've got the data, they don't know how to look at it. So what I'm saying here is get better at knowing your data, or get help with knowing your data so that you can make those informed decisions. And that will help your business in the long run, not even in times like this. It will help you in the long run to understand your data better. And then this thing about don't let the cure be worse than the disease, right? So, you know, things may seem non-essential and you may cut them now, and later on you may regret those choices. So it's always good to have a good, well-informed idea of your cash flow, where it's going, what the ROI of the things that you're doing is, so that when you do cut things, because you probably will have to cut some things, you're cutting the right things, and you're not cutting things that are going to impact your business. When things start to turn around, you don't want to impact your business later on. One of the things to do at this time is if you change your short-term strategy, right? And one of the ways to do that is to kind of diversify your sources of business. So I like to use the expression throw your net wider, right? And what I mean by that is increase visibility. If you think of you know, the main thing that you're potentially doing in your business is you're servicing your customers, but you're also out there trying to find new customers, right? And trying to reach out to old customers and existing customers and do more business with them, right? So in times like this, changing your short-term strategy could be a good way to maybe diversify the people that bring you business, diversify that, right? You're collecting more eggs in your basket is a good thing, right? And what I mean by that is finding different ways to have people come to your business from different channels. So creating more channels, right? So maybe a strategy could be diversifying your, you know, we were just talking about marketing budget. Maybe a strategy could be changing the way you do your marketing, right? Maybe say you use Yelp to find customers. Maybe you're an electrician or a coffee shop, and you get a lot of people through Yelp. But currently you don't do any PPC through Google AdWords. Well, what might make sense is to actually start to do some Google Ads as well. Now, it may not help you right now, but it may help you later on, because it may increase your breadth and widen your net of the diversity, right? So you have a more diverse audience, right, in different channels. So in a world where the current channels that you're using, the number of hits that you're getting is getting less because people are staying at home or people are worried or fearful, right? Then you need to increase the number of channels so that you can get maybe a little bit from this other channel, a little bit from this channel, right? So diversify or reallocating your advertising budget, or adding a little extra to your advertising budget if you can, or taking some, you know, looking at your total expenses, maybe saving something here and putting it over here, right? So not necessarily, you know, saving budget and hoarding it, but saving something here and actually reusing it for something that's going to help you in the long run. I hope I've got that one over. Sorry about the door opening. So a good thing to do in these times, and some of you have probably done this already. I don't know how many of you have done this already, but reach out. You've got to be reaching out to your clients, your customers, your existing clients, you know, future clients. Inform them of the changes that you're making. Let them know what you're doing. Keep them in communication. Communication is key. And you can do this in various things, but what I've found a lot of people are doing, and you've probably seen a lot of companies, are email blasting and using social media vigorously to let people know, you know, what is your status, what are you doing with your business, how are you helping your clients, letting your clients know that you're going to be there for them, just generally reaching out. And this can be extremely important for direct-to-consumer business. So, you know, if you're like if you're a coffee shop, or if you're a retailer of some type, then it's extremely important that you're reaching out to your followers, and to new potential clients, new customers, and all of the old customers that you've been with before. You should be reaching out to them and reassuring them that their well-being is your concern, and that you're there to help. Right? Communication is key in anything that we do, so it's really important that you continue to do this. And if you do a good job of this already, then you're probably already on this. If you don't do this as much as you'd like to, then now's your chance to really start to do it and keep doing it once this all blows over. Because again, this is always key to business. Business is built on relationships. Right? I tell my clients this all the time. And that's why, as a small business owner, networking is so important. Getting out there and meeting with other business owners, finding other people to share your stories with and to do strategic partnerships with. In fact, all of my clients over time now, over the last 10 years, we always look at where their business is coming from. I haven't found one business yet that wasn't getting at least 50% of their business from their warm network. So, from family and friends and word of mouth, right? And their associates that they network with, their business was coming there. 50%. I've never seen a business with less than 50%. Most of the time, some businesses are somewhere between 70 and 90%. Most of the time. So it's really important. Communication, reaching out, staying in touch. So, this, again, we're talking about communication. So communication doesn't start and end with your customers. It should start with your employees. If you have employees, consider them, very carefully. And this is another place where you should consider getting help, getting your advisors and mentors help in terms of, as a business owner, you're a leader, right? And you have to show that you're a leader, and you have to work with your employees and show them that you have a plan and that you're not panicked, you're not a headless chicken. The worst thing you can do is panic and show panic to your employees. And any extreme action should only happen if there's no other way to go, right? If you're backed into a corner, then take extreme actions. But first, try and figure out a plan. So things like laying off workers, maybe you don't necessarily have to do that. It doesn't mean, it doesn't in these times. Maybe temporarily reducing their hours or furloughing them. Or, I have another client whose workers have a lot of paid time leave available, and employees. While as an employer you can't tell them to use their paid time leave, it's there and it's on the table for them. So if they feel that they want to use it now, they could use it now. So sometimes that can be used by employees if they want to. But reducing hours, there's a lot of help out there right now. The government is offering help, and so you can reduce hours, and people can actually, in California, the Employment Development Department, the EDD, is offering help for those that have been affected by the COVID, in terms of losing their job or temporary layoff or reducing in hours. So there's money there to help people. Maybe that's a good way to go, rather than just extreme cases. And of course, people are always happier to sacrifice a little rather than sacrifice a lot. So a temporary sacrifice is better than losing your job in hard times. And it's just, above all, keeping contact with staff and communication. Even though even if they're not in the office, even if they're at home, it should be your job and your role to be staying in contact with them and talk to them on a regular basis and keep them updated. Don't be silent, be empathetic, listen to your employees' concerns. At the end of the day, even a small business, the employees are the business. The people that get the work done, right, are the business. So you've got to be cognizant of that, and you've got to make sure that you don't lose employees, because good employees are hard to come by. Okay, so then, like I was saying before, there's a lot of help out there. In times of need, the government offers incentives and financial help. I mentioned EDD in California are offering help. Other places that you can seek help, there are many small business groups out there. There are many forums that you can get on. I'm on a number of forums that I watch, and I see a lot of the communication that's going on, a lot of good advice out there on some of these boards from other business owners, a lot of good ideas that other business owners are doing. So get out there, be in the conversation, and you don't necessarily have to be talking in the conversation, but you can be listening to the conversation that others are having. And there are a lot of good things that companies are doing. I saw on a board the other day, there was a company in Colorado, a whiskey company, and they're not creating whiskey right now. But they're using a distillery to create hand sanitizer to help with the shortage in hand sanitizers. So they've really pivoted that company, and they're doing something, and they have a GoFundMe page. So they're bringing in money from people that think this is a good idea to generate, free or reduced price hand sanitizer. So that was a great one. I really thought that was good to see. The other thing is that banks are being incentivized as well. The $2 trillion deal that they got, I think, just on Tuesday. There's a bunch of money in there. I think 300 million or something to banks to incentivize with general capital loans. So if you are having cash flow problems at this time, I know sometimes it doesn't feel great to have to borrow money, right, to keep your business going, but sometimes that can help a lot. And if you're willing to do it, the government is pledging millions to help small business through different financing schemes. So, maybe you can get a short-term loan, even if it's just, a few $1,000s to help you get through this period. The banks are starting to help. Also, I'm seeing that there's some incentives out there as well to help people with mortgages. So apparently they're doing something where you can get up to 12 months without impacting credit histories or anything like that. So they'll give 12 months on mortgages, so 12 months to pay kind of thing, without adding extra interest, so it's no interest. And so they're doing that in these times. So there are things out there that banks are doing. It's just a phone call away to find out what's happening there. So yeah, definitely, if you need an influx of money, talk to your bank. And then another thing that I found is to reach out and actively seek others too. And I think this is a good way to give back a little bit. And if you're worried, it's a good way to kind of find others that are helping and doing different things. So if there's a way that you can help your fellow business owners or just help the general public, then in this time, if you have nothing to do, then maybe this is a good way for you to do things and get out and actively seek helping others. And a lot of times, I've heard that saying, givers gain, right? So if you give a little, eventually it will come back and that kind will be repaid. The universe will make sure you get it back. So in these times, give a little and it will help you out. And it's peace of mind as well. So I added this last slide because I wanted to kind of address, well, it's all well and good being panicked and when these things happen, but how do we prepare? How do we prepare for these kind of things so that next time we're better prepared, so that next time it doesn't hit us as hard? What are the things that we can do for our business that will help us, pivot more quickly later on, maybe lose less sleep, right? What can we do to kind of safeguard our business from these kind of changes in market or things that can happen? So go ahead and ask yourselves these questions. Where do my clients come from? What are, this goes back to eggs in your basket. How many sources do you have that are bringing business into you? I had a business owner some years ago that had a business, kind of construction, in the construction industry, but was only got most of their business, 70% of their business, from 3 referrals. So 3 design architectural houses were giving them work to the tune of 70% of their revenue. And when we started working with them, my first thing was to say, hey, you need to diversify. You need more channels. You need to go out and network and market to other sources that can bring you business in, that can refer business to you. And they did. They went out and they got 3 more sources of business. And after about 6 months, they were doing quite well with those 3. Their profits went up. But unfortunately, one of the original eggs got broken. It left. One of their original sources of business went away. I think they went out of business. So immediately they started to lose about 25% of their revenue. However, because they'd picked up 3 other sources, it wasn't a big deal. It actually, in the end, was a wash, and they didn't lose too much revenue in that. And it wasn't a big percentage of revenue. What would have been 25% ended up being something like 5%. So it was a really good thing to go through that exercise and increase, right? So knowing where your clients come from, knowing who your biggest clients or biggest referrals is super important. So ask yourself those questions. And second, ask, well, how do those customers then find my products, and what mediums and channels I use to find my business, right? So if there are clients out there, how are you marketing to your clients? How are they finding? Why are they finding your products? What are the channels that they use, and what other channels could they be using, and how do you promote those channels, right? How do you increase? Again, this is on the client side. You're trying to figure out what things can I be doing to kind of make my eggs more in that basket, right? And then what points of failure exist in my market? So what is your market today, and what is your market failure points? How can your market be impacted by external things, and how would that have an effect? So like this thing was pretty big because it affects everyone, because it's basically forcing everyone to stay at home, right? So this is a big one. But what other things are out there? What smaller ones could equally have an impact to your business, not necessarily everybody else's business, but your business? What are those points of failure within your market? And what kind of changes in the market are you at risk from today? List those things out, list those risks out, and then you can start to build a plan of how to mitigate those risks. What things should I be doing in order to mitigate things that can affect me in my market, right? And then the final question you should be asking is about your product or your service. The product and service that you provide, what would make that product and service better? What would make it more robust to market change? Are there things that you can change about how you do your business, the way you do your business, how you operate your business? What kinds of things can you change about your business or your product or your service? What kinds of things can you make? What efficient things can you make it more efficient? Can you make it more valuable to the client? Can you add value to your product so that in say a market downturn, people turn to your product because it's the best, right? Because it has more features, or because it's got better quality, right? Or because you're a service and they just like the service that you provide, or they like the way you provide your service. They like the customer service that they get on it. So what things can you change about what you provide, your service product, that would make it more robust in the future? So those kind of 4 questions are really good questions to ask about your business and your products and your market, so that you can prepare for the next time this happens. Because yeah, maybe it may not be as big, but markets are cyclical, right? So you never know what's going to happen from one day to the next in markets. So I can't say when it'll happen, but things like this do happen. You know, thankfully they're typically years apart and not weeks apart, right? So that's a good thing. Anyway, I'm going to open it up to questions. Hopefully that has been useful to you guys. I've got someone raising their hand. Oh, I got a question. Is it a good time to start a new company? Well, that's a good question. Right now, maybe it's a good time to start thinking about if you have an idea for a company, maybe to start doing the planning, so that you can be ready with the actions and things that you need to do once you're ready to start the business. Again, it depends on what the industry is as well. Boon in some cases, right? You know, if you're in the stock market and you're looking at the stock market right now, you know, the stock market has dropped quite considerably. So there's probably a lot of, not that I'm giving any financial advice right now, because I'm not a financial advisor, but you know, someone in the stock market might think that it's a good time to buy. I don't know. So another question here, can you talk about starting a new company with consideration of loan availability? Yeah, there are lots of capital loans out there that banks are doing. If you currently are working with a bank, I bank with B of A. I also know that PayPal is also offering loans, and also I just saw the other day that if you use QuickBooks, there's QuickBooks loans. QuickBooks is actually pretty good. They offer really good interest rates, and interest rates are really low right now because the Fed dropped the Fed funds rate to 0 about a week ago or so, a couple of Sundays ago. So rates are really good right now. Starting a new company, yeah, it might be a good time now to call up your bank and talk to them about what types of loan they're offering for new businesses, so that you can kind of get a head start a little bit on that. I'm sure I've answered that question completely. Consideration of loan availability, I think, yeah, it might be good to get in. I'm not sure how banks are going to be looking at new loans for new businesses versus loans to capitalize businesses that may potentially need some short-term help. So that's one thing to talk to your bank about. But banks are typically always looking for new ideas and to promote small business. And to be fairly honest, my opinion, you know, the economy is going to need that help. You know, 50% of the businesses in the United States and 50% of the revenues coming from those businesses are small businesses. So that's businesses that the SBA talks about being under 500. But that's about 30 million businesses out there. And about 27 million of those are under 20 employees. So it really is small business that drives our economy. So banks better be nice about helping out new businesses start up. Another question here. Yeah, executive. As an executive VA, I think my business has the opportunity to grow. I only need to market a bit differently. Any ideas? Yeah, without really knowing the specifics there, Robin, we can talk offline about specific ideas for your business. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I know you, Robin. You're on definitely on social media, and you know how to work that. A lot of times, so a lot of what people don't understand is, and I've learned this the hard way, is that marketing takes money. There's a lot of marketing that can be done, but a lot of times it takes money, and a lot of money. Take, for instance, if you have a product idea and you want to take that to mass market, it typically takes $500,000 to $1 million in just marketing to really get a product to mass market. And I'm just talking marketing dollars. So a lot of times what happens with products to mass market is that they seek investment first. So they come up with the idea, they show the idea, they show the feasibility of the idea, they build a feasibility plan, and then they tender it to investors, and the investors then come and provide the initial funding, $500,000 to $1 million in funding to actually really do pretty aggressive market campaigns, to the sound of like $100,000 of spend per month to basically build the market, really get the eyes on the product, so that at the end of that, you have the data that shows that market can be done, and then what happens is, after that, then there's another round of funding, because the next thing you have to do is fund manufacturing and fund that research, those research results, marketing results, to be to the big players like Walmart and Target, and then that has other difficulties. So so just to market, I know a company that came up with a trash bag for the car that actually went through that process, and once you get an acceptance from a company like Walmart, then we're talking millions of units, and then you have another problem. Then you have to raise money so that you can manufacture that many products, because that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of times people will take it the first step, and then the second step will be to just license the product to the bigger manufacturing firms, the ones that have the money and the ability to produce that many products. So marketing costs a lot of money, so you should make sure that you have a very strategic plan about what you want to do. So strategic planning is a must for marketing. Just strategic marketing planning. I'm not even talking strategic business planning. I'm talking strategic marketing planning, to make sure that the dollars are going in the right place, and that there is a potential ROI from those dollars. And I, for one, personally, have spent a lot of money marketing my business, and I've learned some hard lessons from that. Any other questions on there? I hope I answered your questions well. Good question. What tracking do you have on your marketing? So yeah, there's a lot of data out there. Yeah, Google Analytics is one. It depends on what market. If you're using a marketing tool, there's a lot of good marketing tools out there. The big one is Salesforce, but for small businesses, that's like using a sledgehammer to bang in a nail. But there are some other tools out there like Zoho. There's another tool called Close. I use HubSpot, which is kind of like the number one for small businesses, HubSpot. And that allows you to do all of the email marketing, the social media marketing, and it does all of the tracking. So it can track all of your potential clients, your current clients, all of your marketing stats in one place. And HubSpot is actually free. Other applications have a small fee, but typically what you find is, as you get more contacts, then the fees for these tools go up. but they're well worth it. But definitely start at the bottom and work your way up. So start with the free one and work your way up. But yeah, and then a lot of these tools will integrate. So they'll integrate with your email. So if you use Google Mail or you use Outlook Mail, they'll integrate with your email so that they can keep track of your sales process as well. So they help with marketing, they help with sales. We'll keep track. It keeps track of who's responding to your emails, who's opening your emails, who's clicking on your website links. These tools are actually pretty good for tracking and keeping track of good data, right? So they'll help you build an idea of what those channels are that are bringing clients to you. I always say start with email marketing. Start with email. Email is still number one, even though they say that Facebook is number one. Email is still the best way to reach out to potential clients and former clients as well, because one of the things as a business you should be doing is always re-upping with your previous clients, always trying to do more with previous clients, always keeping them informed. So I use Google Analytics. I use the analytics on Facebook. I use the analytics on Instagram, LinkedIn. If you're a B2B, if you're business to business, if you're a B2B company, then LinkedIn is a really good one to work with. And they have a lot of analytics. They have a thing called Sales Navigator, which is fairly cheap. It's about $80 a month, I believe, and it allows you to target other businesses fairly well based on their profiles. So and then they also track analytics. Who's looking at your profile on LinkedIn? Who's looking at your company page on LinkedIn? So yeah, I use all of those, and I push my clients to use all of those as well, as much as possible. The more data you have, the better. If I have any more questions. Okay, well, everyone, if there's no more questions, I'll flip over to this final slide here. Oops, back a bit. So there's the link for the EDD. If you're interested, for the EDD, if you're in California and you have concerns, yeah, definitely they have a specific link. And then I have some free resources on my site. I have a bunch of free resources like a strategy template and an action template and some other stuff. I also offer a free 30-minute consultation. So if you're still worried and you want to talk personally one-to-one, happy to talk to you, especially in these times. No sale, just free advice. I also have a lot of good information on my blog. So if you want to check out my blog, there's a lot of good articles on there, some stuff that I've been talking about today and other stuff to help you with your business. So if you guys are willing, definitely go and have a look at that. Thanks everybody for joining. Happy to be of service. Cheers everybody. Thank you.